Hello, how you doing? I hope you're all well. So, what is this momentous occasion about? Well, it's two things, okay? One, it's my birthday. It's my birthday. Yep, today, 74 years old. But the main reason for this video is I want to not only celebrate my birthday, but I want to celebrate this year, 2024, yeah, 50 years in the business of change. It all started in 1974 when, after going through a few grades in the UK Civil Service, Ministry of Defence, from initially a clerical assistant to a clerical officer, I got a place on a course called Work Study. It was at the Royal Military College of Science in those days, now called the Defence Academy. Basically, if I got through that course, I would get a new grade of executive officer. So I applied for it. I got an interview, and after the interview, they kind of said to me, "Well, you only just scraped through, and you're going to find the course, I think, a bit of a problem." Yeah, okay, well, we'll give it a go. I got through the interview, so the course taught me all about things like work study, studying people working, process improvement, work measurement, organisation and methods, and all sorts of different things. So it was interesting. Yeah, and it was all, in those days, not known as change, but it was change work, basically. And given the fact that they said I would have problem getting through the course, well, I actually came through the course numero uno. Yeah, I always like proving people wrong. So I finished the course. I went back to the MOD in Bicester in Oxfordshire, where I live, and started working on various things, like their incentive scheme, a lot of work study exercises looking at the way people did their work, yeah, process improvement, and so on, and various other things, yeah, just basically change. Okay, so I did that for a few years, and I got a bit bored, to be honest. So I started applying for different jobs, and I think it was 1977, I got a job up in Leconfield near Beverley, North Humberside, and it was in HR. Would you believe? I was called a unit civilian staff manager, and basically it was a deputy HR manager in today's speak. And I had a remit, though, because of the course I had done and everything. It was the Military School of Transport, and they were having a lot of problems up there: long-term absence, high level of sickness, absentee rate, and so forth. And I was actually sent up there with a remit to try and sort it all out. Yeah, sort of change the way they did things, and cut down the long-term absenteeism and so forth. So I spent 2 years there, and I achieved quite a lot, but not everything. Like implementing the rule book for long-term sick. That was going to take a long time, so my predecessor, the guy that took over from me, basically had to do that. And the reason I only spent 2 years there was because I managed to get a job in Germany, because I put myself on what they call the overseas list. Yeah. And the job was as the administrative control officer for the British Forces Broadcasting Service, which was basically the MOD TV and radio stations over there, the service they provided for the troops. And it was great. I mean, the job was great, administrative, doing all the sort of pay and you name it, what an administrative officer does. But I managed to persuade the program director to give good old Ron here a quick go at being a DJ. So he said, okay, put a demo together for me and I'll have a listen to it. So I did. And he said, actually, that's not too bad. We've got a slot coming up, 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, and so you'll have to record it unless you want to do it live. I said, no, I'll record it. So I got a program I called Ron's One Track Mind, because what I did was I took one track off an album and played the best track that I thought was. That sort of metamorphosized into, what was it called? Yeah, I think it was still one track. No, it wasn't one track. Ron's Rockumentaries, that's what it was. Where this was the early 80s, and lots of new romantic bands used to visit Germany. So I went out and interviewed people like Human League, Duran Duran, Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark, Simple Minds. I did about 15 different interviews, and they were all played on air, sort of mixed in with music and interviews and stuff. So Ron's Rockumentaries, it was great. Unfortunately, I was only there for 2 years because a company called the Services Sound and Vision Corporation took over from BFBS and my job became redundant. So I kind of went back to the UK, but the last 2 years in Germany was a blast. I had a big massive house with maid quarters, but I didn't have a maid. I bought a couple of new cars. I bought myself a small sports car because the actual overseas payment was quite lucrative. So it was great. Anyway, so I came back and went to work again for the MOD in Bicester. On kind of the same work as I did before I left, but after a while a job came up in what they called the Small Systems Group, and this was my sort of first introduction to technology, and it was a group basically dedicated to receiving requests for small systems, network systems, to actually do manual work. So, as an example, maybe a unit in Germany or UK would actually say, we would like a network system to do X, Y, and Z. So, me and another guy, Tony, if I remember his name correctly, used to go out and visit these places, even Germany, yeah, and do a kind of research into what they were doing now, yeah, what we thought they could do and how we could help them, if we could, with or through implementing a small network system. The computer of the day in those days was an apricot. No, not an apple, an apricot. Yeah, they were kind of the leaders of the day, and they soon went, I don't know, they went bust or something like that. I don't know. But again, that was a great job. It's travelling all over the place and justifying this, that, and the other. And then when the request was either ratified or not. Okay, if it was ratified, we would order the equipment. If there was any programming needed to do, we had programmers on site, etc. They did the programming, and then we went and delivered the system to the unit that wanted it and trained them on it. what's that? It's change management, isn't it? Eh? So I'm not sure, can't remember how long I spent there, but it was a few years. Um, and in that time, I was actually promoted to higher executive officer. Yeah? But a year and a half after promotion, I still hadn't got a job. I went to review a few jobs. I went down to see a few jobs, but it wasn't really an interview. It was more like, would you be interested in this job? And I always said, yeah, I'm interested, but I never got promotion. And if you didn't get promoted into a job within 2 years of your promotion, you lost your promotion and you had to go through the whole process again. And I thought, sod this for a game of conkers. I'm going to try and get a job in the private sector. So I started putting out my CV to this, that, and the other, and got a couple of phone calls, and one of them sounded interesting. It was for what was Abbey National in those days, a building society, which while I was there turned into a bank. So I went on these interviews, and I got surprised. I got an immediate response from Abbey, and I got a job as a business systems analyst, given my previous work in the MOD Small System Group. That was interesting, in Milton Keynes, the city of roundabouts. It was only an hour and a half's drive from where I lived anyway, so it was quite good. And the first job they gave me was they wanted to secure all of their systems. So Ron got the job of looking at what was available on the market in terms of system security, applications, doing research, looking how much they cost, and etc., 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 and putting together a document, basically a proposal that said, I've done this, I've done that, I've checked them all out, the prices are this, the way they work is this, yeah, the way the applications work is this. I would recommend X. And they accepted it. Yeah, it was great. And that kind of took me about 3 months. Within that 3 months, a job came up in Baker Street, the Abbey National Headquarters. Da, 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 da. No, okay. So it was as a productivity officer for productivity services. And again, I applied for the job, 2 grades higher than the one I was doing in Milton Keynes. And I got it. Yeah. So yeah, I started travelling to London by train. Oh God, I used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and get the early train so I could come home early. But again, it was an interesting job. And there was 2 roles I did there that were interesting. One was actually improving the communication between the conveyancers and the mortgage centres where they did the mortgage applications. So it was all about implementing fax machines. So, fax machines, hey, great. Oh, what brilliant technology. But to be honest, it worked. Yeah, it made, because they used to send the conveyancing report by mail, and that took 2 to 3 days. At least when it was faxed, it just took no time at all. The other one was assessing Saturday afternoon opening. So should a branch that was only open on a Saturday morning be open on a Saturday afternoon? So I basically had to go and do some research, and I took one trip up to Stockton, yeah, and I got there early, left early, got there early, and the queue was outside the door. So I basically kept a record of the queue, the length of the queue, and asked some research questions of the customers, etc., etc. Came back, put a report together, and I said, certainly in the Stockton issue, yeah, they need to be open on a Saturday afternoon. So what you need to do is take the context of what are the data I collected from Stockton and have a look at some other branches using that data. But it would be an idea to do further studies on further branches just to corroborate the initial data. So that was good. And lots of branches started opening on a Saturday afternoon. So that was productivity services. Then we became process improvement because Abby didn't really know where to pigeonhole us, basically. So we became process improvement under a different head, etc. And kind of the same work as in productivity services, just under a different banner. But one of the jobs that I really enjoyed doing, and I did it for about 2 years, was their benchmarking manager. And we used to benchmark all our processes, yeah, not all of them, some of them. So mortgage application processes, retail savings processes, conveyancing processes, insurance processes, with our direct competitors. So we used to sit around a table and show them our processes, they showed them their processes, and we used to write things down and say, oh, that might work for us, and they used to write things down and say, oh, that might work for us. It was great because we were so open and we all learned something. Yeah. So benchmarking manager, well, that was great. Then we became profit improvement. Didn't like that. So it's all about profit improvement, but again, it's kind of the same work. And one of the main jobs I did for a full 9 months was I looked at, or I devised, a new sales lead process. So where a counter operative actually recognised that the customer wanted to buy a product, they would then hand that lead off to a financial advisor, or a record of that lead off to a financial advisor. The previous way of doing it was rubbish. It wasn't system orientated or anything. It was rubbish, slow. Financial advisors missed customers and so forth. So I devised a process whereby they all got the information at the same time, and it increased the profit margin of the branches into which it was implemented, which was great. And I got bored. Does that sound familiar? Because I was doing a lot of work with consultants, yeah, and they used to sit with you and work with you and stuff like that, and then what they used to do is take everything you did, yeah, and write it up in their own words, put it in their own report and submitted it. And I thought, what the hell? I can do that. Yeah, of course I can. So I resigned. 6 weeks notice. I had set up a limited company already because I was thinking of leaving anyway, but this kind of sort of forced the issue a bit, yeah. And I had some clients, potential clients, ready to go, but they were kind of, how can I put it, not pinched, but well, they were pinched from Abby. So I kind of felt it necessary to resign, so I did. And I had to wait 6 weeks, yeah, and then I left, and then I had to wait another 6 weeks before I actually got a contract. And it was through one of our recruiters who Abby used to use, and he was a very good friend of mine, still is, and he got me a job at Prudential. And it was something like three times the salary or rate that I was paid at Abbey. And I thought, bloody hell, this is going to be good, isn't it? And they wanted me to look at their complaints handling service, because they found through research that 9 out of 10 of their customers that use their complaints handling service wouldn't do business with the Prudential again, and they wanted to turn that round into 7 out of 10 who would do business with them again. So yeah, I did a kind of a process improvement, change management exercise there, and it worked. What else did I do? Oh yeah, I started to call myself a change manager because I actually worked. I was working for the Bank of Scotland at the time, um, and I can't remember what date that was. But we again, it was process work, and they were implementing a back office, not a back office, a core banking system. Okay, and we had a meeting. We'd got all these processes in place, and said, "What we're going to do now?" Yeah, we have to implement the processes. Yeah, but how are we going to implement them? We can't just say, "Here, get on with it." Um, well, there's this new thing. Remember, this was quite a few years ago. They're calling change management, which is actually assisting the organisation in actually implementing the new processes, all about communication and managing stakeholders and stuff. And I thought, that sounds good. So from then on in, I was a change manager, which was quite interesting. Um, but I went under all sorts of different roles during my 15 years on the contract market, things depending on the initiative, like was I a process change manager, a program change manager, an operational change manager, ERP change manager, and then some. Yeah, whatever fitted the actual job at the time. I started coming over to Thailand in 2007. A friend of mine bought me a ticket, and because I got him a contract role, okay, and came over and I loved the place. Yeah, I had just been through my second marriage. Okay, so it was great. I said to him, "Look, show me the ropes for 2 days, and then I'll, just do whatever I want to do." Because he was over there with his wife. He'd actually married a Thai a few years earlier. Wow. So I went ahead and, I was here for 3 weeks and I had a great time. Yeah. Couldn't remember much of it. But I met a nice young lady while I was over here, who I eventually married and brought back to the UK with me. And she lived there until late 2010 with me. And then we had a chat, as you do, and I thought, I'm not liking the UK much anymore. I want to move. Do you fancy moving back to Thailand? And we had a sort of few weeks of, discussing this and that. And eventually she said, yeah, okay. So we moved. Yeah, she went first. I went 6 months later because I had to sort out a lot of administrative stuff, like the house and goodness knows what else. And we moved to Thailand, where I am now. And the first thing I did was I formed the Highway of Change, yeah, which I've been working under the banner of for goodness knows how many years. What's 2011 to 2014? 13 years. Oh, dear. The problem was I had invested money in an investment scheme in Australia, and in 2013, 150,000 in 2013, it went down the pan, and it was discovered to be a Ponzi scheme, and we are still on the legal roundabout to try and claim the money back. I think we've got a court case in the Isle of Man in April. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Well, it is here nor there because I had to start looking for work because I had no money. Yeah, this was most of my pension that went down the pan. So it was difficult finding a job because I had no Asian experience. Yeah, but I eventually did in Singapore, and Singapore is a little bit like the West anyway. And my first job was for a crane group called Manitowok, and they were implementing SAP across Australia, Singapore, Korea, and the Philippines. I was brought in late to the project, but it went well. Yeah, it was delivered on time, on budget, etc. Yeah. Then I went to do some work here in Thailand, and unfortunately Thailand they don't understand what OCM is, change management. But it was like a PMO role, change PMO role, which I was no good at anyway. So after 2 months, we parted ways amicably. Then in 2014, I delivered my first ever training course to a Thai cement company, and it went down quite well. But again, because they don't understand OCM, it was a bit difficult to try and get over some of the concepts and so forth. But yeah, it was okay. And then 2017, the reason there's these big years breaking there is because I earned enough money to live on, because Thailand was very cheap in those days. So I earned enough money to live on for a few years, and then I decided to find another job. So my next role was back to Singapore for GlaxoSmithKline, and I worked on their head office move from 5 floors in a big high-rise building to an all-singing, all-dancing new build, which was technologically advanced in the outskirts of Singapore. Again, I was brought into the project late. 4 months, yeah, but we delivered. We delivered 800 people in 3 weeks from one site to another. The next year, I got a call from a small consultancy who I'd had previous dealings with in Thailand, who said, "Oh, we're working on an SAP implementation in Rayong, which is just about an hour's drive from me. And the head office in the US has said they want a proper change manager, because they had someone there, but they were, local, and they didn't know what they were doing." So I, again, late into the project, and did all the communication and all the training and business readiness assessment, etc. And within the 4 months, I achieved quite a lot. But they didn't understand it. They had difficulty in understanding what I was trying to do. So, okay. And then my final job was for Salesforce, and it was in Jakarta, Indonesia, and it was basically a advisory role. So I had to put together a strategy, change management strategy, and roadmap, for this company. And I was there there and back for about 2 or 3 months, because it was an only advisory role. And I presented my findings, and halfway through that, the sponsors put a hand up and said, "Can I ask you a question, Ron?" I said, "Yeah." Said, "What are you going to do to help us?" "Well, I'm doing what I was asked to do by Salesforce. I've got to hand over this strategy and this roadmap to your internal change team for them to implement." That's not what we were told by Salesforce. Anyway, things went round and round and round and round, and I don't know what was going on between Salesforce and the company, but it was kind of successful from a Salesforce perspective, because I delivered what they wanted me to deliver. It was unsuccessful from the company's perspective, because they thought I was going to help them do it rather than advise them of what to do. Then COVID hit. I was back in Thailand, just before COVID hit. And I thought, what the hell am I going to do now? And I thought back, and I thought, what about training? And I thought back to that training session I delivered to the cement company here in Thailand, had a look at it, and I said, yeah, that looks okay. It was 2 days. So I changed the slides, and new graphics and new wording and new content, etc., and basically started advertising it was then called Fundamentals of Change Management, and started delivering it from 2019. And this is where I am today. 50 years since I started. I am now, and I love it, a change management trainer delivering my driving change management course. So, I tried to get this into 30 minutes and we're just on 29:57. So I'm going to stop there and basically say, I hope you enjoyed that 50 years potted history within the time frame of 30 minutes. I hope you like what I did. I hope you had a bit of a laugh about some of the things I said, etc. But that was me, and that is, I've got to continue working because I need to earn, until this class action against the big insurance companies on the Isle of Man has led to its conclusion. Things are looking positive at the moment, so fingers crossed. Okay, so thank you very much for listening. Happy birthday, Ron. I'll say it to myself. And if you're interested in my training, contact me. Okay, thanks for listening. Bye.